So, does dragon have the fruit of the wind or not? This is the question that half the world has been wondering for ages, since chapter 100. Not since yesterday, since chapter 100. So it's 1,000 chapters that One Piece fandom has been wondering whether dragon has any wind-related powers. The last detail about it appears in chapter 1099, during the flashback of Jewelry Bonnie and her father Kuma, where Monkey D. Dragon says right to his pal Bartholomew Kuma, "Go with the wind, my friend. May the wind of fate be favorable to you, my friend," a phrase like that. And so we see all the references that talk about the wind within One Piece when dragon is involved, and we go back. We go back in time to 1,000 chapters ago. We are now back in the year 1999, when perhaps some of you were not even born. I am an old man, although it doesn't show, but I am an old man. I was already 12 years old back then, eagerly reading every new chapter of One Piece. So, let's get this straight. This is the initial scene where Monkey D. Dragon the Revolutionary makes its first appearance. I just want to draw your attention to a neat little visual trick that will be used pretty much every time Dragon shows up. In addition to his physical presence, there are these white streaks. It is evident that they have no connection to Pablo Escobar and the notorious Medellin cartel. They are simply the result of the wind. Whenever Dragon takes part in a rebellious, insurgent or revolutionary action, we witness the presence of these dynamic lines that represent the movement of the wind. Furthermore, in the aforementioned section, specifically in chapter 100, Dragon also appears in another scene that gives rise to everything that follows. He raises his coat, and in order to save Luffy, a tremendous gust of wind emerges. As a result, every one of us becomes curious, questioning, what caused this gust of wind? How did it happen? In the anime adaptation, there is a clearer understanding of this green gust, as it is notably emphasized. However, in the color manga version, it is depicted as a regular gust of wind, without any specific coloration or peculiar visual elements to highlight the situation. Only the kanji symbol for wind is present in the dialogue of the Marines. Moving forward, we witness Dragon's intriguing disappearance only to mysteriously reappear in volume 45 after several long years have passed. At this point, the man learns that Luffy has assailed Eni's lobby and notices his staggering 300 million bounty displayed. Seeing his strange expression, a fellow revolutionary asks to him, "Where are you headed, sir?" To which Dragon calmly replies, "I'm going to get some fresh air." In Japanese, the literal translation is, "I'm going to get some wind," as kaze. The kanji for wind is used. Once again, the wind's action is implied in his sentence. As I said, the literal interpretation would be something like, "I'm going to take a breath of wind." Meanwhile, Dragon is outside conversing with himself, stating, "Yes, someday you and I, Luffy, will cross paths again, we shall reunite, we'll meet," but it never came true. Love it. Throughout the scene, the visual representation of air is constantly present. Baltigo will always be overtaken by these gusts of air. Instead, let's proceed to the submarine prison of Impel Down right away. We have good reason to go there. One of the reasons is that Ivankov is present in Impel Down. Emporio Ivankov, another member of the Revolutionary Army, recalls a conversation he had with his boss Dragon many years ago, in which he mentioned the wind. During their past conversation, Ivankov points out that Dragon, whenever the wind blows, he always looks towards the east, regardless of his location. In reality, Dragon points his gaze towards his home, the Kingdom of Goa, and his son, Luffy. Whenever the wind blows, so when they are out there on the terrace, you always look in that direction. And again here the kanji kaze is really emphasized. Our journey continues as we delve into Luffy's past, specifically in Goa Kingdom, where we witness the arrival of Dragon during the daytime. Once again, there is the presence of the distinctive windy flare, just as there had been during the night of the Great Terminal Fire. The wind remains a prevalent motif throughout in all the scenes in which Dragon is present. Once Dragon encounters Sabo, we cannot fail to notice the usual graphic gimmick of air. Shortly after, a forceful gust of wind emerges to rescue the people in Great Terminal from the blazing fire. These very people then become members of the Revolutionary Army. In the animated version, this scene is depicted with splendid visuals. The wind is depicted as a vibrant, potent green, resembling poisonous gusts rather than benign ones. However, in the colored manga, The wind is represented simply as a strong burst of air that extinguishes the flames and creates a path through the debris, enabling the people to escape the danger and the engulfing flames. Here, I want to emphasize that Dragon's ship, named Wind Grandma, draws a connection to Fidel Castro's ship, Granma, which played a crucial role in the Cuban Revolution. However, it's worth noting that Dragon's ship is not black. Instead, it features a brown hull adorned with a green dragon boasting red scales. Hence, it deviates from the notion of a black ship. I mention this because many theories speculate that Dragon possesses the fourth road poneglyph, and is the individual with the fiery scar. But what would have been the point if Dragon had a road and kept it hidden from Robin, who by the way was unaware of the road's existence? Consider that she is hailed as the light of the revolution, that they have been searching for her for 2 decades. It would seem strange to withhold such crucial information from her. Regardless, the ship is not black. It simply bears the likeness of a typical vessel with a figurehead featuring a green dragon. And again, the wind motif resurfaces once again. In the scene where Dragon saves Sabo from the sea, we witness Sabo sinking in the vast expanse of water. He was already on a small boat that had ventured far from the shore. Suddenly, Sabo's hand emerges from the deepening abyss and Dragon snatches it. In the anime adaptation, this moment is emphasized with a powerful gust of wind, and Dragon almost appears to glide through the air as he rescues Sabo. However, the manga version doesn't explicitly show this, although it is undeniable that Dragon is walking upon the water at that very instant. This is the only logical explanation for how he could have caught Sabo. He can fly or hover above the sea. Once again, Dragon is utilizing a power that revolves around manipulating and controlling wind. This is particularly evident in Baltigo, especially after Sabo's return from Dressrosa. When we observe the revolutionaries' base in Baltigo, there are always these windy wires present. However, in Kamabaka Kingdom, this particular aspect is absent. The atmosphere in Kamabaka is calm and undisturbed. In fact, Dragon remains inside the castle of the kingdom during this time. Consequently, there are no further mentions or visible representations of wind-related phenomena. It is possible that with the loss of their base and other setbacks, Dragon's influence is diminished. Nevertheless, in the panel of the chapter 1099, the wind houses are once again referenced, but this is a flashback, a dragon of the past. So let's come to a summation of this talk about wind and windy things. It is quite evident that Eiichiro Oda is leading us to contemplate the possibility that Monkey D. Dragon possesses a devil fruit power related to wind. This fruit could potentially be an air logia, which would undoubtedly be tremendously powerful. However, it could be argued that this power would be a step backwards compared to Caesar Clown's abilities, the Gas Devil's fruit, considering that the brilliant ex-Navy scientist has control over various gases, while air is composed mainly of oxygen and other elements that form the atmosphere. Moreover, it should be acknowledged that wind is fundamentally associated with movement, as it represents the motion of air propelled by currents. Therefore, it is reasonable to speculate that Dragon's potential devil fruit power may also exploit atmospheric pressure to some extent. It could be either a Zoan capable of generating wind or a Paramisha that possesses the ability to create wind. All 3 categories of devil fruits are potential options, with none definitively superior to the others for now. Hence, the fruit may grant the power to either summon a wind-producing animal or harness the ability to generate wind itself. Notably, it is plausible that this fruit is the fruit type that controls or embodies a fan. What knowledge do we possess? Really, perhaps he possesses the fruit of the fan or the fruit of the air conditioner. Alternatively, he is an expert of the air, of the wind, and therefore, when he is present, he makes wind effortlessly. Obviously, Eiichiro Oda has skillfully concealed the truth from us, patiently waiting for the perfect moment to unveil the revelation. This is not surprising, considering his tendency to hold back information. However, it is also not impossible that this is all nonsensical speculation. Perhaps Dragon is simply flatulent and constantly releases gas. At this point, my ability to believe in anything has been completely shattered. Oda has cheated me greatly with his unveils, leaving me skeptical about anything being genuine. In this case, it is even plausible that something as mundane as flatulence could hold some significance. Nevertheless, we are allowed to dream, and so we can consider the possibility of it being the wind logia or any other desired explanation. Anyway, this is what the manga says. We'll witness what happens. Regardless, the necessary components are present, and most importantly, Dragon's ship isn't black. Having said that, I salute you and wish you the best. Enjoy and have a great time.